Turn the computer down. Put my gum away so I don't start yapping at you. Okay, so today we're going to do something fun. Yeah, I mean, this time of year is such good triggers for money, abundance, relationships. It's like right before the end of the year, it's almost like all those fun triggers come back. And it's the best time of the year. Is funny because it's very much it has the potential to be. I think that every little child gets very excited about this time of year, whether it's like seeing family or connecting or you know buying gifts, receiving gifts, traveling, whatever it is that you guys like to do during this holiday season. Right, there's always this idea that's like, oh, this year is going to be different, and this year is going to be, I'm going to be able to do this, and I'm going to be able to do this, and I know for me, and I've kind of taken a survey, just like random people in Kansas City and people that I know and like associate with. This doesn't feel like Christmas. Like this does not feel at all like the holiday season. Uh, last year, living for it. I mean, some of you guys were at my house last year doing the biohacking stuff, and I went nuts. Like I had the Christmas dishes out, I had the Christmas food. I mean, like I really got all into it last year. And it was almost like I think back up where I was this time last year, and I was literally a big fat bloated caterpillar. Like I was overindulging everywhere. Had no idea that I was about to go through with some major fasting on all areas of my life, because now I'm looking at like I don't even care if we put the trip, which is so not like me because the inner child in me like lives for this stuff. And I mean, I like if I did not have children here, it would be Scrooge. Not that I'm not joyful or happy or excited. It's just that I don't feel. And I think too, that's probably a good sign because, I've been spending the last 9 months, detaching from collective consciousness so I can think for myself. And I think that when you kind of pull out of the collective mindset, you see that some of your excitement, some of your expectations, some of your desires are not yours. Like when we plug in, when we go to the stores and we hear the Christmas music and we see everything, at first we're like, well, and then we're like, okay, I'm getting into it. And they're like, oh, I'm going to buy this for so and so. And we understand that we're in a constant state of hypnosis when we are in the collective. And it's going to get on you. Like even now, if I go up to the store, I'm going to hear the music. I'm going to smell the smells. I'm going to feel the energy. But when you've spent enough time really kind of creating your own collective consciousness again, which is the recipe of manifestation, creating a collective consciousness of me, myself, and I. That is the secret sauce of manifestation. When you are in alignment and unity of me, myself, and I, you have your own collective. You have your own hypnosis. You have your own desires. You have your own thoughts. You have your own feels. And you're not plugged in anywhere. Although you are there, you have this opportunity to choose to participate or not at all. Like I kept waiting for the feeling to come in. I kept waiting for the vibe to come through. And I'm like, keep looking at the calendar and I'm like, next week, shopping, like nothing. I mean, a couple of things, here and there, but it's felt more like a chore. And I thought, okay, this is expansion. Now my inner child is like, why don't we feel excited? Why do not we not feel like ourselves? And so I've been having to have this talk with myself, you know, because again, that ego has really leaned in to higher self this last 6 months and been like, okay, I trust you. I trust that you're knowing where you're going. Ego never knows where it's going, but at least we have drama and fun sometimes, so it's just like, I hope we know where we're going. It's like, now I don't even get Christmas, so I'm like having this conversation with my inner child. And I'm like, we just have to kind of redefine it. One of the things about growing up very poor and in a very dysfunctional family is we didn't have any routines. We didn't have any rituals. We didn't have any aesthetic memories. We didn't have anything we pulled out once a year. I mean, moved every 6 months. So it was rare that we had the same things we had last year. Like we just were vagabonds. Like we were just traveling, and so we never held on to anything, especially like routine or ritual. And my parents were always so dirt poor that Christmas always felt really uncomfortable and heavy and a lot of fear and a lot of fighting happening. And, then you're going to your friends' houses and they're getting new puppies and you're like, why does God hate me? So then when you grow up, okay, you're like, I'm going to be the parent that I never had. And that was my drive. That was my motivating factor. It was like, as soon as I could afford to put the tree in, there was a tree in every room. As soon as I was able to put Christmas tree presents under there, it was grandiose. It was like I was buying for my inner child through every kid. And to this day, I still I buy something very special for my inner child. It's not big, it isn't expensive, just something that my inner child has like reflected on that year, or an experience that I've had with my inner child over that year. And I always purchase something or make something for my inner child underneath the tree. So, because it's like parents, we get nothing, I mean, we do, but it's like homemade stuff, and which is, we love, but it's sentimental when it comes from me. So I plan to still do that. But what I realized is almost like this mask that we wear, or the vow we've been talking about week after week in our masterclass, has been like, when you grow up, I vow to do this. I vow to that. I'm going to be this mom. I'm going to be this parent. I'm going to give my kids. I'm going to love them. Never once were we thinking, is this who we are? Or is this just what we have to prove? And I think that especially now with 3D imploding and exploding simultaneously, it's like people keep going, oh, it's getting really scary out there. And I go, no, it's just on the surface. Like it's a boil. Eventually it's gonna pop, and then the skin can heal and it's a new, because like Earth completely understands that this tantrum is necessary. It's a big wake up call. Building it's building desire for you to look within. It's building your desire to choose. It's building your desire to do the work. So remember, every negative is a shortcut in expansion with consciousness. Every single thing that is going horribly wrong to your ego identity is actually lining you up for wonderfully right. Okay, because your North Star, every fairy tale goes through the dark forest to get to the shortcut. So that is one thing that I think that a lot of us have kind of like faced so much fear this year, that we're like getting comfortable with that perpetual dark night. And it's not like the dark night that we like live in, but it's almost like the dark night that we keep agreeing to, because it's taking us deeper and deeper and deeper into, okay, well, who am I in this story? Who am I in that story? Who am I without this? Who am I with that? And again, it's all about moving the crutch from the third dimension into higher self, because your higher self is opulent, abundant, wealthy, magical, eternal, youthful, vital energy. That's your higher self. Your ego, okay, is in scarcity. It feels alone. It feels crowded. It feels overwhelmed. It feels underwhelmed. It feels scared. It feels brave. It feels all these things, but none of it is actually true connection to what the higher self feels. The ego is always trying or shoulding or waiting or preparing or studying for what your higher self already is. Okay, so the more that you deactivate from collective consciousness, and the more we purge our bodies from shame and guilt, the shame and guilt that makes us a vibrational match to scarcity, well, then it starts to like, then there's going to be like this, well, then who am I? Right. And this is a good question to ask ourselves. Like, do I choose? And again, none of these decisions need to be made now, because next year we're moving really deep into the body. We're moving really deep into knowing thyself. But here's the thing. We didn't come here to know ourselves. We came here to create. Once we get past the ego layer, we're going to know exactly who we are. That's just a matter of, okay, then as that abundant, free, sovereign being, that could choose to participate with the Christmas music and sing along or pretend they don't even know what that holiday means anymore. You get to create a reality full of freedom and abundance and choice that you desire. So I kind of like gave it to my inner child because it's so funny when with expansion, the ego is always going to see the loss. The ego is always going to see what you're losing in expansion. You could win the lottery, but it's like when I lose the desire to win the lottery, I don't know. The ego is always stuck in the desire. So, what I'm telling my inner child right now is we get to make it up. We get to make it up because I'm hoping, and this is what I told her, that every day, not hoping because hope's a drug, but I'm knowing that every day is going to feel like Christmas. So if every day is going to feel like Christmas, why do we need one day to celebrate the idea, right? That we've been good or bad and we're going to get gifts. And it's the one time we celebrate with our families. And it's the idea of like resurrecting. I know I've like died 5 times this year. So I've like had 4 different resurrections already. And so it's just like looking at it more in abundance, which brings us to today's class. So the fellowship is going to get a little bit more of the actual game, but I thought I would give you guys the science. And I know you've heard this before, but so there is a 10 commandments of abundance. There's a 10 commandments. And I when you listen to them online, it's really boring. So I decided that I would pull them out and teach them to you through the non-dualistic formulas of how it can be a game. So to me, children participate in games. Like if you teach phonics through games, they learn to read faster. If you teach math through games, children learn math faster. We as adults are no different. Okay. But the games that our ego plays, usually we don't want any part of it. So we want to create some games moving into the next year of like the quantum biology games, right? The game of hot and cold, the abundance game, and bringing those forth in this next year to grow up the inner child. So now we've brought the inner child to the forefront that now leans on higher self instead of ego. Like higher self has custody of the child. But now that we have to understand that the child has been like homeschooled in the no school and doesn't really know F about nothing. Okay. And so the child may understand things logistically, but doesn't understand how to play, bend reality, mold consciousness, use imagination in the physical world to speed up the time space continuum like lap of energies until things manifest. So children are great at pretending. Okay. And if you go on a long ride from children, it's in your best interest to play some sort of game while you're on the road. Now we know that we got to finish up this walk through the shadow of death in order to get to the promised land, which has always been right in here, the kingdom of heaven. And so as we kind of move through the making the unconscious conscious, well, now we've got to teach that child through play, because that is really the only way the child will truly learn. Like I look at my son who, is clinically ADHD, hyperactive, right? All these things. And I always tell his teacher, I said, well, and this is nothing personal towards you, but if it was actually fun, or if he could understand himself in this subject at any point, he'd be all over it, because the kid knows more about World War II and history than most adults do, because there's a level of interest. And with interest, there's desire. And with desire, there's fuel. And when there's fuel, there's manifestation. So we know that that's the way school was. And our younger education was surviving it, right? Or some of you were so freaking smart, you were bored by it. So you didn't really grasp what you were learning, which was actually probably dumbing you down anyways, because how dare they teach science and math on paper? Math and science is physical. Let's build a house, right? Let's create a lab. Like let's put our hands in, because again, putting your hands in the clay is how your body learns. You didn't learn to drive a car by reading the book. You got the basics. And then you got in the car and was like, I don't know how to do this. Now I have to do muscle memory. I have to do all kinds of stuff. So when we can learn through the doing but we can create games out of it. Then we can create rhymes, we can create flows, we can make little songs out of it. And this will help the hypnosis part of you easily affirm and recognize, because it's basically the game of abundance is going to be based out of the game of I Spy. So do you remember that I'm sure you played it with your nephew or your grandkids or whatever? Is I spy with my little eye, one eye, right? But we're going to look for two eyes, and we're going to start looking for abundance in our past, present, and future. Okay. And the reason why we're going to look for the abundance in the past is because your programming that life is in lack or scarcity did not come from this present moment. It was taught to you, it was proven to you, it was given to you, it was shared with you. Like the indoctrination has been programming you with jingles and commercials and color and sound for your whole life to get you to desire that which the collective desires, to be what the collective is being, to have what the collective already has. So you've been in this indoctrination, you've been under hypnosis, basically your entire life. And see, this is why it is so difficult when you have your awakening. You assume that all parts of you have awoke, like all parts of you, because now you understand things, you know things. But then when your body tries to join in with you in the embodiment, it is like a foreign conversation happening, because your body is under hypnosis of the collective, because your body is literally been filled to the brim through the cellular memory, through the muscle memory, through the emotional storage that's in your body with that which you have been. This is why when you're deprogramming your subconscious mind, it can feel like it takes way too long, because you don't realize how much suppressed data that is, what the collective believes, that your body believes that you don't. Like I hear conscious people, they'll be out the mall and they're like, oh, this is so commercial and this is the matrix, and they're shopping. So it's like they're still doing it though. Like they're bitching and moaning and complaining about it, but then they're literally going through the motions and they're going to have their joyful moments. I don't see a problem with that, but I see the contradiction in the field. You know what I mean? Like, as we start to get more sovereign, it's going to be an all or nothing game. Now, that doesn't mean you can't celebrate Christmas. That means that your celebration of Christmas would need to be individual and unified for your specific purpose, which means that if you do not identify with the collective belief system of what they are celebrating for, all you would have to do is make up your own and go through the motions. And then that would be your special time that you are celebrating in your own universe, because it's difficult to build your own world and then go out into the world, right? Especially when none of the stuff that you built exists yet. So these are all the choices that you have. And so it's kind of like, okay, like I have to choose from these things until these desires fully materialize. Okay. So like the impression is basically, I'm impressed. Like, you've got to impress your body. You've got to impress your body with your new belief systems, your new affirmations, and your new hypnosis if you want your subconscious mind to birth out the child or the world or the partner or the money or the health that you are desiring. So this is why I have always taught in games. This is how I taught my kids to do things. This is how I've taught myself things. I thought it was just because I was slightly retarded in a loving way. Like, I mean, that's how I learn. I learn in rhymes. I learn in time over. I learn at looking for. So what do you think your mind is set to look for? Abundance or lack? What do you think it's like an auto default? It's lack. Yet abundance triggers you. So when we look at the idea of abundance, okay, so abundance has very little to do with money. It's just one category. So abundance is the toolbox. Okay, money just is the hammer. There's lots of other things that are abundant in there. Okay, you could be abundant in thoughts. You could be abundant in feelings. You could be abundant in ideas. You could be abundant in desires. You could be abundant in problems. You could be abundant in diseases. You could be abundant in traffic. You could be abundant in bills. You could be abundant in so many things. So it's interesting that you will reside in a lack state mentally when you are too abundant in what you don't want and you are too in lack with that which you desire. Okay. Now, I think a lot of you guys have come leaps and bounds with your abundance this year. I think that even if you don't have a nickel in the bank, you feel wealthier than you've ever been. I think that there is a lot shifting for you, but your holy grail, the final frontier, is getting the body to reactively believe in your abundance or your prosperity or your wealth. Because like it takes a minute. First, you're going to go to lack, and then the consciousness is going to be there, and you're going to be like, wait, no, we're doing fine. We're doing like you have to like remind yourself. But see, here's the thing: that third chakra, that solar plexus is your reactive state. That's your behavior. So how you behave in the moment, the first 3 seconds, is what your subconscious mind believes. Okay? So just because you know it up here does not mean you know it here. And if you don't know it here, then it isn't all the way growing out of your root yet. You're having to remind your root that there's a seed in there. No, 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 we're abundant. We just had this great trip. We just did this. We just did this. And it's like telling a child, you just ate dinner. Why are you hungry again? Right? So understand that this child within you doesn't have enough proof. It doesn't have enough security. It doesn't have enough certainty. It doesn't have enough practice in its natural state of abundance and joy yet to be joyful, to be abundant. Yet you can't manifest abundance unless it is your natural state. I know, it's a paradox. This is why, like, very few people are actually going to go all the way with this because, like, look at what this requires. It's not just knowing this data. It's not just reading the books. It's not just taking the classes and listening to the channeled messages. It is literally now to put your entire system under hypnosis through affirmation and games and practice and preparing and surrender and letting go and all kinds of stuff over and over and over and over again until you tape over the recorded tapes of your past. So this is why, like, I've taken the 10 Commandments of money and I turned it into a game. Now, those of you who are in the fellowship, we're actually going to play the game, but you guys are going to get, you're going to get how to play. Okay, because it's like the grown-up class, and the fellowship is kind of like the child class, right? So the first one, and again, these are not, I'm not making them up. I just pulled them from, made sure that they were all the same, pulled from like 5 different resources, and then just brought them in. So obviously, number 1 is going to be that the universe is nothing but abundance. That's the first law of abundance, that there is nothing else except abundance. Nothing else. All the universe is pure abundance. That means that every single thing that you've ever wanted, desire in the future already exists now, here, and has always existed. Okay? So when we hear that one, it's kind of like frustrating because you're like, well, not from what I can see through my universe, right? Like what I see are the things that I want the most that are in lack. Okay, so that's number 1. So like I actually developed this game with my 11-year-old because I thought if he can get this, then we can get this, because like we're frozen in time of whatever our greatest traumas are. So there's fractals of our consciousness that are still 5, still 4, still 11. And I thought, he's at that age where he can kind of like he's doing more like grown-up math now, but he doesn't have the wisdom of it. So we can kind of understand. And we can look. And now he probably would have been better at this game like 5 years ago because there was just flow and there's no resistance. Like he'll see everything that's abundance. And it's interesting because the stuff he started pointing out to me was stuff that I went and put into the game. So obviously the only time we really have time to like play these games is like when we're driving to school, which is like a 30-minute drive. And so the first thing he pointed out was the abundance of traffic. Okay. And then the abundance of streetlights and the abundance of red cars and like the things that I don't want to see as abundance, right? Like as my grown up, like I don't care to see traffic, but I realized that that is abundance. So there's an abundance of people, there's abundance of traffic, there's abundance of traffic jams, right? There's abundance, like he can't 4 cops on our way to school. He's like, there's an abundance of cops. It's like, this is what his little reticular activator is looking for based on his current belief systems. See, and I'm looking at the abundance in nature. Like I'm looking at the trees, like how they're overgrown, how they're just like dropping on their leaves and how they have no problem letting go because they're going to bring all new leaves in. And I'm looking at the abundance of nature, even when it's been cut down. See, that's proof right there. Trees cut down, grass still grows, right? Things still grow through concrete. That's how abundant this planet is. Okay. So even when we try to get Mother Nature to stop growing, she's like, all I am is abundance. And if there is something that she can't get through, she'll just grow around it. So I was kind of looking at that nature abundance. My son was picking out man-made abundances, which I thought was interesting. So like what we associate with true abundance is more things that create flow and freedom and joy, right? Like music and nature and color and art and beauty and connection. And then there's the non like organic man-made abundance of buildings and factories and like processed food. Like we went into the store and I said, okay, I'm going to find the natural abundance of Mother Nature. You find the abundance of man. The entire middle of the grocery store was the abundance of man. Only the perimeter was organic. So like the fruits, the vegetables, like the meats, the things like that was all around the perimeter. And the entire middle, like 13,000 square foot store was all boxed, canned, man-made abundance. Okay. So it was just, again, number one is like food for thought here. Just taking the opportunity to look around and noticing how overly abundant this world is. So you go to places that are not like city, you're going to have more abundance of nature. You're going to have more animals. You have more buildings, you have less animals. But again, everywhere you go, even in the most desolate places, there is an abundance of nature, all right, of some sort. So just noticing that, because I think that when our ego is living in lack, it forgets that it's the only one living there. Because ultimately, the you who believes in scarcity is the only one that believes that. So just shifting that mindset right there and including your inner child to play this game with you and looking at that is going to be a shift that will begin to trickle down to these other 9. Everybody got that? So looking for where we are abundant. See, now we're playing the non-duality version. So in the idea of abundance, you could be asking for abundance in your affirmation, but your subconscious mind has only seen the abundance of lack, which means that your subconscious mind has only seen a lack of money or an abundance of lack. It has only seen the abundance of problems that money brings. It has only seen the abundance of bills that your parents had. So if you ask for abundance in this now state and your subconscious inner child sees money as an abundance of problems, what are you affirming? Pay attention. So this is where you want to get like really diligent in your words, in your spells, your affirmations. I don't think any of you guys that have any money issues or any health issues should be affirming for abundance, because your subconscious associates abundance in the abundance of lack. Because here's the thing, that the universe is only abundance. So you are actually abundant in lack. Yeah, it's a paradox, but you are. So like, you have no money, you're an abundance of no money. Like, just feel that for a second. If you have, you have no health, like no stream, you are an abundance of illness. You are in the abundance of lack. Because this is a dualistic nature, you get to choose. This is why when you are doing your hypnosis and you're affirming, you want to get really specific, no double negatives, first person context about what you choose to see with your little eye. I spy with my little eye, right? So you want to choose that I have abundance of opulence, wealth, prosperity, because abundance could fall into the category of problems. Okay? Because abundance is the all-inclusive, universal hell yes to all. Prosperity has a different meaning. Prosperity means eternal overflowing of wealth and life force energy. So prosperity is going to be a better choice for your affirmation than abundance. Okay? Just throwing out there. I've seen it happen way too many times, and I think I was doing that in the beginning too, and I was getting more abundance of problems. Okay, so number 2 is the law of flow. Okay, everything flows. Everything is always flowing all the time. Now, I'm giving you these 10 commandments, and your ego's like, where am I? Because I'm not seeing this flow. Where is the flow? Okay. So again, flow is based on belief systems. So what is not flowing for you is what you don't believe is in abundance for you. So it's almost like we're gonna go all the way to 10, and then you can like work backwards. So now we've got to find flow. The game would be flow. Find things that flow organically. Okay. So like when I first got to Kansas City, and I came from driving with 30, 40 million people in LA, and I got here and there was open road. I was like, hell yeah. Right. I started going, and I'm driving and I'm getting pulled over. I'm like, I was going to speed in traffic, and I get this ticket. He's like, you know how fast you're going? I was like, like, because I can. Like, I was excited. He's like, you can't do 80 to 65. And I was like, why? Like in LA, if you could do 80, you do 80, because you can't do 80. There's always construction and traffic. Like, you can't go anywhere. And I told him, I said, this is gonna be really hard for me, because like, this is an open road. And it's like that desire to flow. Now, isn't it interesting as the ascension has really picked up, because I've actually seen this all over the world? Construction on roads. Do you know what construction on roads does to your psyche? It creates a block in flow. The matrix is constantly going to be blocking your flow on purpose, because it creates anxiety and anger. Okay. How frustrating it is when you want to just get downtown, and on like the highest traffic time, there's always something going on these roads. I've been all over the world. So this isn't just the US. This is all over the world. This is happening. And it's just like construction at the weirdest times, in the rush hours. It's like you have to go all the way around in different places to get direct. Because again, if this is a maze and you are a being that is infinite flow and abundance, the way to get you controllable is to redefine your definition of abundance into lack, and to break your flow as often as possible. Okay, can you like feel this with me? Like, just look at where like your flow is blocked. Okay, now ego is very used to flow being blocked, so it actually blocks your flow. Ego will put clutter here. Ego will put that there where now you can't walk in an open space. Okay, ego will create a block of flow of all kinds of sabotage with your work or with your technology or with your relationships. So what we got to do is we got to reset that idea of flow and redefine our definition of abundance, and then start practicing and playing with flow. And when we see flow, we get really excited, right? So like my son and I have got it down to like the minute. If we leave at 7:15 on the dot, we don't hit traffic. Now, if he forgets his shoes upstairs, or for God forbid, I have to come back and get something, 5 minutes later, we are literally stuck for an extra 20 minutes. Like that's how just 5 minutes is, because again, the collective all does the sheep thing at the same time. Okay, so like I know that if I get there earlier and him and I just play on Snapchat for 20 minutes, that is so much better than sitting in traffic where your flow is blocked and you're getting anxiety and you're getting irritated when you're starting your day, right? So now if you guys are in the country and you're like, I don't even know what she's talking about, guarantee the matrix has found you somewhere. It could be in your plumbing. It could be in your nature. It could be somewhere. There's a flow blocked if you believe that your flow is blocked. So it's really it's if looking at the definition of dual, it just means challenge. That's it. So everything that feels like a problem, let's reword that into challenge. And then challenge just means basically game. Okay. So now everything is just a game. So as you're hacking the matrix with your affirmations and your hypnosis, it is very important that you also play the game of hacking and hypnosis out in your world, which means your 24 hours a day should be meditation of some sorts. Meditation or game, meditation or game. How can I play this game here? So flow, something else that would come into the category of flow would be freedom. Okay. So look at that. That fundamentally is who you are as a being. You are a sovereign being that is naturally prosperous. You have vital energy flowing through all parts of your body. Where is your flow blocked in your body? Well, where do you have pain? Okay, that's a blocked flow. So I think it's good to I spy this. We look for the blocked flow. We look for open flow, because then we can see that the dualistic nature of reality is, well, now I know where the flow is blocked with no judgment. I could play the game of creating flow. I can create flow where there's no flow. So what I've done is I've left 5 minutes early to create flow. This helps us laugh all day instead of me wanting to choke someone out on the road, even though I don't really have road rage. I'm usually the one that's like, sorry, I did that, like, because I'm just in my own world. But I don't have road rage, but I feel everyone else's, like you'll be sitting there and you're just like they're so angry. And so just 5 minutes earlier, before the world wakes up, I'm up, because that's my flow. Some of you are like, how do you get up at 3:30 sometimes? Because that's my flow. Nobody needs my butt until 7 a.m. That means for several hours, I can be in flow. This creates freedom and abundance for me. So when you get up with the entire sheep world, then you're going to be doing exactly what they're doing at that time. And now you are in the collective. And so you are feeling what they are feeling. So just flipping your timetables around and doing your meditation or your imagineering during times when the collective is not all in the world's mind, you're going to have a better meditation, right? Because it's like everybody's there. I mean, we all know the rule, especially as moms. We all know to go to grocery store Monday morning, not Sunday afternoon, because that's when your flow is going to be locked, right? God forbid you go to Costco because you forget something on Sunday afternoon and you just walk in and it's like the anxiety is just everywhere. It's not just you, even you. It's just nobody wants to be there with everybody, but that's what we all do. Okay. The ego will literally sabotage you, so you have to be in the collective. Okay, I can't find my shoes. So I mean, Luke and I have this down to a science. Like we get everything ready the night before, and we're like, go time. We get in the car and go, so, because it's more fun. It's more fun when we can just laugh the whole way to school. I can do 75 on the highway. And then we get to school, we're the first ones in front, and we just sit there and play for 15, 20 minutes with each other. And we're creating a flow. Okay. So there's one thing that you can look at. So there's a couple parts of this game. First, observe the negative flow, block flow, the open flow. Okay. And then play the game of creating flow. Where can I create flow? Okay. For me, when can I change my timing? When can I do things a little bit different? How can I celebrate Christmas that's different than the sheep mentality? Because although you are not a sheep, you are a shepherd. Your body believes it is a sheep and secretly wants to be. Your body's like wants to fit in. It wants to do what everyone's doing. It wants to be able to be like, it's still that child that still wants to fit in and be accepted, even though it doesn't want to be. So you have to understand that there's a part of you that if you get into the collective is going to behave like the collective. All right. So creating your own flow is awesome. Okay. Does anybody have any questions with that? Because flow to me means freedom. So another place you could open flow, and I know I've done, this was part of our biohacking program, was looking around at like piles of things that you have unfinished in your home. That breaks your flow, whether you notice it when you walk by or not. Unfinished projects create mental block and flow. Okay. Some of you need to study like the art of feng shui or whatever, because like if you walk in your house and you can't go all the way around your house in a complete flow, you have stuck energy, and that will actually give you anxiety in your own house. I know for aesthetic reasons, sometimes like we walk in and you have to like move around things, but opening up your flow will give you mental clarity. And empaths and sensitive beings, you guys can't do clutter, because clutter is a representation of unprocessed, unfinished business. So part of your energy will leak at that. Okay. Like, and where you pay your bills, create a flow, put a funny picture, put a funny stat, create some flow so that, and you could do a lap. Like when I do house clearing, I can tell where people pay their bills. I can tell where people argue, because it's like, like you don't want to walk into certain areas. Like do a lap, like walk outside, ground, get your higher self, and then walk back in your home and like notice if you can flow all the way through it. And then notice from the observer of looking for block flow, notice where your energy goes. That is block flow. Because remember, we've been calling our power back. We've been doing all these activations. But remember, like just the unpaid stack of bills right there, whether or not you have the money to pay them, it's gonna, you're gonna walk by it, and a part of you is gonna be like, ugh. So you have to understand that you are a whole system, and your subconscious mind is gonna see that as a block and flow, abundance of lack, okay, and lack of freedom, all just walking by a pile of bills. Okay, so let's just say, okay, I don't have that, but I've got all this stuff on my dining room table, or I've got all these clothes in my laundry, or I've got all this like unfinished stuff. I tell you, as an empath, you may be so desensitized by it, but it is sabotaging your expansion. So that would be something you could play the game of opening up the flow. You go to your family's house, that's real, like it, notice how everywhere there's a block and flow. Even if they don't have clutter and things like that, like there's a block and flow, there's a block and flow. Like the windows are down instead of up, like flow, energy flowing. Now you are creating a block in oxygen when you are in your thinking mind, because when you're in your thinking mind, all your consciousness goes up here and you begin to shallow breathe. So you are blocking your own flow of oxygen when you are too much mind. This is why, like, putting an alarm on your phone every hour on the hour and saying, breathe. The more anxiety, the more worry, the more unfinished business you have in your life, the more conflict you're sitting in, the more trauma you have, the more fear you're dealing with, the more ego is going to push you towards the mind for solution, which is going to take the ability for you to breathe naturally away from you. So just breathing, that's creating flow. And make sure you get it all the way into your belly, like bring it all the way down. See, we have so much power. I could create flow right here. So ego's like, we don't have a flow of abundance. Yes, we do. I can breathe abundance. Because guess what? Guess what money is? It's life force energy. It's a manifestation of life force energy. So is my oxygen. So I could say, no, I'm abundant, and I could breathe, and I would literally be creating abundance where there was lack. So you can kind of see where I'm going with this game here. All right. So flow is basically about freedom, and think of a river. Okay. A river is very healthy. It's very strong. It's very powerful. But when it gets lots of blocks in it, right, then the stream becomes more like a trickle. And then anywhere that there's a pool, that will create an infection. So anywhere that the energy is not flowing in your river, there will be an infection. There will be stuck energy. There will be clutter. There will be conflict. There will be debt piling up over here. Okay. This is actually what I'm cleaning up right now all of my life, because I feel like I'm creating flow, and now I'm looking for the stuff that is sabotaging me that I don't know is sabotaging me. So I'm joining you guys in on this. Okay, you like this so far? Yes? Okay, so number 3 is the law of duality. So understanding that until we move into non-duality, okay, we have agreed to play the game of duality, which means that there is 2 sides that create a whole. There's yin and yang. There's dark and light. There's day and night. And together, it creates a holistic experience, which means that when we wake up, we have a tendency to go so far into the light that we abandon our darkness. And then our darkness is like haunting us from the ethers and from the reflective universe. And so our solution to that is to create more light. Okay, so when you are dealing with flow and you are dealing with abundance, okay, the way to create big abundance and major flow is to use both aspects of you. Okay, so your dark knows how to do things that your light doesn't know how to do. Your dark parts are brave. Okay, they are aware, they have wisdom, they have survived, they know how to be in the dark. So we abandon it though when we wake up, because that's also where all your trauma is. It is where all your bad memories are. It is where like the parts of you that you want to leave in the past exist in the dark, because it's in the shadow, it's in the density. But the thing is I've known from going from both sides of the spectrum, when you are too light as a feminine energy, you have to create a masculine counterpoint because of duality. So if I don't have my dark feminine, which you guys that are doing the boot camp are going to be getting your archetypes today, or creating them, that dark feminine energy is your natural duality as a feminine energy. Okay. So as you always hear from men, because women are always like, let me share my vision. And the men's like, well, let me play devil's advocate. Like, let me be real with you. Let me get logical with you. So masculine energy has both solid logic and grounding and vision. Okay. Because divine feminine has light nature and dark nature. And together, that's a holistic being. And with a masculine, their logic and ability to ground and focus on one aspect at a time is their dualistic nature, where they can have the blueprint, the vision, but they can execute one step at a time. Divine feminine don't know how to do that. Okay. She's like 10 steps ahead. Okay. Or 10 steps in the past. So when we are disassociated from our own dualistic nature, right? Because I don't, my dark feminine got me in trouble, or my light feminine is wounded and my partner doesn't like my dark feminine energy. So the masculine steps forward, or you have to be in the matrix, and you in order to be in the matrix and be able to hide in the matrix, you've got to be a man, because the matrix is masculine. Okay. It's very like So if a woman wants to succeed and she doesn't have all parts of herself activated, then she's going to have to be more masculine out into the world, which means she's going to turn her feelings off. Okay. And that's a block and flow. That's a block of abundance. So you see how, like, we're just going to take the next one and we're going to keep working backwards, because it's like each next step is going to show you where that lack actually exists in your own 10 commandments of abundance. So truly working with both aspects of you, whether you're masculine or feminine, is the only way to create true prosperity. So dark feminine, right? She would use her grace, her wisdom, her boundaries, her resources, her ability to alchemize and transmute negative energy into power. That would be a huge asset in creating abundance for her. Okay. So if you are missing one part, or your light feminine energy is so wounded because you've been a people pleaser and you've been over pouring and you've been over nurturing, okay, then and you're leading with your dark feminine, then you're not compassionate enough. So you see how it's just the balance point is what creates the flow. So you can't be too hard on this side, too hard on this side. It's like the balancing act of being right in the middle creates the most speed. Because you want to think of abundance as a tightrope. Okay, like you got to be right in the middle, and you got to be super balanced, and you got to be balanced on both sides of yourself in order to get through that. And when you are able to be grounded in your center, which means that you have flow in your dark feminine, you have flow in your light feminine, you have flow in your logic, you have flow in your vision as a man, then you are balanced. And when you are balanced, your antenna to the collective, or to the universal Wi-Fi or the quantum field, you now have Wi-Fi to the universal matrix. So you're going to be able to get the downloads from the God consciousness, not from the sheep world. Okay, so instead of hearing like the Christmas music, you'll be hearing the Christmas music. So it's like a whole different ball game when you are truly balanced. And that's kind of like what we're working on in the boot camp. Is Manifest Your Dream Body is all about taking unbalanced energy and creating balance and harmony in the body. So yes, there might be parts of yourself you have to accept, but in your dark feminine is your ability to alchemize negative energy into purpose and testimony and passion. And if we are suppressing that because we have trauma there, well, that's 50% of your intuition. So 50% of your intuition is in the dark, 50% of your intuition is in the light. Men who are only logic and they lack vision, they don't have asset all 100% of their intuition as well. See, this is what happens is when our abundance is deformed early on, or our definition of abundance becomes lack early on, we'll naturally create flow blocks in our own flow that will create a distortion in our own duality, and we will separate. And now what happens is that I will need flow from someone else to make my life work. I will need abundance from someone else to make my life work, because I'm half a being. Okay. Like I need the job for money, or I need the partner for money, or I need that strength over there, or I need that. So this is what the matrix does to you. And it starts to sever your ability to be right in number one, which is abundance, because the universe is only abundance. But your abundance might be in lack. I mean, your definition. Okay. So let's take the next one. All right. So law of duality. Okay, so this one is the law of closeness. So law of closeness means that in order for you to be truly abundant in that which you desire, you have to be close to it. Okay. Now I sat with this one because there was two aspects of this, which means that if you want to be, let's just say this. Let's say you want to be in amazing shape. Okay. Like that's just your desire because your archetype is superhuman and there's just things in life you want to do with a really healthy body. Is there anyone in your current reality that is healthier or in better shape than you? Or are you the one that's like working towards that like all the time? And then everybody else is like, peer pressuring you to eat cookies because it's a holiday season when you're like, I'm on a mission. So like, let's say you're not close to anyone that is healthy. You're the only one that's healthy. You will actually have a more difficult time becoming healthy because you're not close to the influence. This is why a lot of times when people join the gym, they begin to use that synergy and that momentum because everybody there is on the same unity consciousness as like, let's get our butts in shape. So just like getting to the gym, sometimes it allows people to use the synergy and the influence and be close to that which they desire. Now, your ego might be, I don't want to go to the gym because people are going to see that I'm not in shape. There's your lack and flow and your abundance and lack, right? And your dualistic nature right there. So it's almost like you can look and see where you are sabotaging this. Now, let's take money. Okay. So you want insane amounts of money, which is just not very sheep minded. Sheep minded are very focused on surviving. Okay. They're not like, I want to make millions of dollars. They're like, I just want to have a nice car. I want a nice house. I want to impress people. I want people to be nice to me. You know, I want to look okay. Like that is what they are. That is their like top of the track. You might be like, no, I know that I'm an infinite being of light. And I know all there is abundance. And I know how to use my dualistic nature. And I know how to open up flow. So yes, I'm going to create millions of dollars. But let's say that you have no friends, not one person that you know who gets to play in that kind of abundance. You're not studying those people online, like the way they talk, the way they walk. You are not close to money. Okay, so there's two closenesses, physical closeness and emotional closeness. So let's say I have no physical closeness of abundance. Everybody around me is in lack. Everybody's talking about lack. Everybody's okay with poverty. Okay, like again, you're probably here to break your generational curses in your family, and you're probably the black sheep if you're in my class, which is fine. So a lot of these things, you're going to be the odd man out. You're going to be the shepherd amongst the sheep. You're going to be the weirdo because you're not getting all the vaccines and you're not, putting all of your money in a 401k and you're not doing everything that the sheep tell you that you have to do to be a good person here. You're not defining yourself on how guilt and shame you can be. Okay. If you're not doing those things, you ain't a sheep. That is going to make your ego feel left out, ignored, alone. Your ego is the guardian of separation. So what you do is you want to hook in. Okay. You want to spend time getting close, whether it's online, reading books with people that have the lifestyle and the money that you desire. Okay. I don't care if it's just watching their YouTube feed or watching them on Instagram, what they have to say about money or how they did it. Like include that into your field because you are an influential, adaptable being that has been part of a central collective system and you don't have your own collective built yet. So you're going to need the muse. You're going to need the empowerment of the influence. You're going to need the 1%. You're going to need to hook into the 1%'s energy and begin to remember how to flow that from yourself. So your body knows what that is. It has a divine matrix built into it. So it knows how to be in prosperity. But if no one is around you ever, okay, and matter of fact, if you think to myself, if I did get wealthy, all these people would be like, that you might actually be resisting it. Or if you got in great shape, would your husband like be like, are you cheating on me? Because, we like to sit here and be fat. I mean, like you've got to like examine the people that are around you and what they would say right now if you flip your script. Because your ego lives in law of assumption. So ego is going to assume that you'll actually be hurt by getting in shape, or you'll be like made fun of, or you'll be taken advantage of if you get too much money. But if you actually like desired to have millions of dollars and then you hooked in with people who had millions of dollars, would they want that from you? Or would they just say, okay, now cool, now you can come to the cool places with us? You see, so it's power of influence that is so important when it comes to money. Right? I remember like when I finally like made it, I started manifesting all these like wealthy girlfriends that were also my clients, of course. And we started traveling around the world. And it was so fun because it was opulence and it was abundance and it was 5-star experiences. And I was used to traveling as the person who would have to cover all the meals if I wanted to go. Like, because my friends were poor. So it was like, okay, if we go, there's always going to be someone who's like, I can't go, because she knows you're going to pay, right? Or they make you feel bad because you're ordering the most expensive thing because they're in lack. So misery loves company, okay? But joy also loves company. So keep that in mind. So now how you're going to do this emotionally, physically, you're going to hook into someone's already grounded, affluent, prosperity, abundance of wealth, whatever it is. Read the books, Think and Grow Rich. All these books are great because they are the frequency of eternal wealth. Carry it around with you, sleep with it under your pillow. Have that with you. Okay, one of those books. Anything by Neville Goddard, anything by Joseph Murphy, right? All those movies, all those books are great. Any of those series back then. Now, how you're going to do this emotionally is you're going to have to retrain your whole body to become prosperous. Okay, so this is where you have to not fake it till you make it, but be it until you see it. So this is where you start dressing better. You start feeling differently. You get rid of the clutter in your house that is just based in poverty. You stop letting people breadcrumb you. Okay. You stop leaking your energy out to people who are just taking from you, and you start bringing your natural abundance back in and create emotional prosperity first. This is the secret. What does emotional prosperity feel like? Okay, well, if you've never had money to just go buy stuff or do stuff, then you're going to have to figure out how to create that emotional prosperity first. So again, you could go study someone else's story. You could ask questions. When kids are little, they're asking their parents, why, because they want to know how you're doing it. So there's nothing wrong with these questions. Invest in learning the emotional frequencies of wealth. And how you learn about it is, well, how would it feel if I had it? That's the emotional frequency of prosperity, is to assume that you already have it and then feel all the feelings. So if you guys are doing the Imagineering work with me, you have been building emotional wealth. You've been building emotional flow. You've been building abundance. You've been cleaning up the abundance of lack, all in your Imagineering. So if you've been doing that, you understand what I'm saying. You know what that feels like, hypothetically or through imagination. Your body doesn't know the difference between what is out there and what is in here. So including emotional prosperity daily. This is why I put effort into how I look, right? Because you can see two people walking down the street. One has a prosperity mindset, one has a lack mindset. Even though the one who has lack mindset could be wealthier, you can tell who has more life force energy moving through them. Okay. The person with emotional wealth is going to look better than the person with financial wealth, because you can get financial wealth without emotional wealth, but you're always one step away from lack. The people that are quite wealthy that don't have emotional wealth are one step away from losing it constantly, and they're constantly living in scarcity, and someone's going to take it from me, and I've got to watch my back, and blah, blah, blah. And that goes into the dualistic nature, that goes into the block of flow, and that goes into the lack mindset of abundance. So those people who have money are not prosperous. They just have money. Okay. So we don't want to model ourselves on someone's bank account. We want to model ourselves on someone's mindset. That is the ticket right there. Someone who thinks and feels and knows their worth in heaven as child of God, and I deserve, because I exist, all that I am, all that I create. And then you just got to work out the frequency alignment and create the flow. Get right with your dualistic nature, clear out your old definitions of lack of abundance. And now we're starting to move these 10 commands really well. Does that resonate with everybody? You got that? Okay, so closeness, emotional closeness to money or health. So if you are unhealthy, this isn't, do not call a doctor. Okay. Do not call a doctor if you're not healthy, because that would be going away from the closeness of health. That would mean that we would go study health, or go feel the feelings of I'm already healthy. That would be close to the feelings of health. Okay. Don't go on WebMD. You'll be dead in 5 minutes. Okay. Like, go to the closeness of the truth of source, not someone who has a degree. Okay. All right. So the next one is supply and demand. Now, I really sat with this one, looking at it like dualistically. And of course, we hear this in business all the time. Oh, you got to have a supply and a demand, which is what the matrix does all the time to you to create scarcity. So what they do is they put less food out, jack up the prices, and now you're willing to pay $12 for eggs because there's only 4 cartons. But if there was 1,000 cartons of eggs and they jacked up the price, you would feel less motivated to buy them, because you'd think, well, there's an abundance of eggs. I'll wait for the price to go down. Even if you needed eggs, that's what your mind would do. So you got to pay attention to this. They're really doing this with food right now, majorly. They were doing this, remember, right after COVID, you like couldn't buy a car because there was like no cars. And I'm like, really? But they want to, in different areas of our financial structure, they're creating the supply demand scarcity to trigger you into creating a pricelessness over what they want you to buy. It's all like a game that they're playing. If they want you to buy farm goods, they will take it off the shelf and jack the price up and whisper in the collective ear that there is something wrong with them and you better get it now. People were spending like hundreds of thousands of dollars over market value for homes after COVID because there was a scarcity. Okay. And that's like illegal. You can't buy a house worth more than what it's worth. But when you are running the supply and demand schemes, let's say, like, I don't want to show you how to do that, because that's not what I mean when I say supply and demand. So supply and demand to me means that there are certain things that come really easy for you. Okay. Like whether it's helping people or knowing things. And it's so easy for you that you devalue it, honestly. Okay. Now, other people don't have this. So you actually don't realize that you have this supply and demand right here as a resource for yourself. You assume because you have it, everybody has this. And that is just not true. Okay. So what we do is we have a tendency to overgive, okay, overpay for people, places, and things that we feel we are in lack of. So really, really sit with me here with this one. I put some notes. I want to make sure I cover it correctly. Right. So it's like this. Okay. So I know I'm guilty of this too. There will be things that I know how to do, or things that just come really easy to me, or intuition. And then other people, it's like they don't have access to it. They don't feel like they know it. They don't feel like they can connect to source, when all I have to do is just open my mouth and source is there. Okay. So for me, it's like, it's always in abundance. But then when I meet most of the other people that I know, they don't have the access as quick or in the same way that I do, although I feel like they do. Okay. So instead of having them meet me halfway, I tend to pour into them to fill their cup. Okay. Because of that scarcity energy of connection. So it's like the people you want around you, you want them to be filled up as you're filled up. And so we don't realize is that the energy game of cause and effect, and kind of the exchange of energy in and out, is that the game is about finding your unique gift and then finding someone else with a unique gift that is in opposition of yours, and flowing like 50-50. So instead of overpouring all of your abundance into your family and friends, the advice that you have to give, the the listening ear, the kind words, the compassion, the empathy that you're just constantly pouring into people who have nothing to offer you, okay, then what you're doing is they are not seeing you as scarcity. They're seeing you as too many eggs. And so they devalue you. Okay. Like you're the $1,200 eggs. And this is why when you try like to jack up your prices for your hours or service, or finally say, you know, I kind of was doing this for a living. So if you want to talk to me next time, I'm going to charge you something. Can you imagine saying that to your friends or family after you've been literally their personal life coach for 30 years? They would be upset with you, even though they know what they were getting. You did not know what you were giving. Okay. So you have to understand that you are 1% of the entire 9 billion people on this planet, 1% that has access to source. 1%. And you think, oh, everybody has this. Now, you're right. Everybody does have this. But the sheep scarcity mindset of lack is looking at lack, not abundance. So it becomes this like supply and demand where now there's too much of you. You have too much of you that you've overgiven, overpoured, overshared, overhelped. Okay. Your value goes down to people who live a scarcity mindset and think you will always be there and it will always be free. Okay. See, this is why you feel devalued, because they are seeing you as the supply and demand of being too accessible. So when we start working with our divine, like dark feminine energy, and she starts to pull back, right? Instead of a 2-hour conversation with someone, she gives 10 minutes, all the highlight points. If you'd like more, book a session, right? Because her time is energy, her time is valuable. Her life force energy is just bleeding out. So it's almost like when I lived in California, we had avocado trees, we had lemon trees, and we had orange trees. I mean, that's how it's my whole life, right? Even when we were dirt poor, like living in the ghetto, we had avocados. Okay. That was just our natural resource there. And I go to Kansas and I'm like, where's my food? Like, this is my salsa, right? I go to the store, I'm like, $5 for an avocado. I was like, so triggered. Plus, I'm like, this is farmland. There should be cows for free here, right? Like, I was so triggered by that, because what to me, I took for granted. I mean, we were throwing avocados away. They were getting like, if you guys live in California, it's just like there's so much abundance. Then you go somewhere and they know that avocados don't grow there. So they charge $5 for one avocado in the off season or whatever. And so I was like sitting with that and I'm thinking, oh, so it's like in my family, I was the avocado tree, and so it's just like they're so used to just pulling and tapping from me and using me, that then to go out and spend money on a life coach, you see, they wouldn't spend it on me, but they would go to Kansas and buy a $5 avocado. And this is what triggers you sometimes, because you're giving very valuable information away to your friends and family, and they're hiring people who know half of what you know, but they know their worth. Okay. So this is one that can be read very many different ways, but ultimately mastering abundance is your relationship with yourself. It has nothing to do with logistics or economy. It's the personal emotional economy. So what you want to do is you want to create supply and demand of you, because even though you think that your gifts are just like whatever, like everybody has this, not everybody has an avocado tree. And avocados are amazing. So it's like, you just have to understand that, to me, just because it comes out of me all the time, it never goes away, doesn't mean that I should be pouring into everyone who doesn't have it all the time. Does that make sense? Okay. So this overpouring, oversharing, overgiving, first and foremost, it creates a devalued position in your gift. Your God-given gift, it's actually devaluing you. Okay. You're over pouring. So your life force energy is going everywhere but here. We all know here that when you over pour, you're too tired to do self-care. So now you're devaluing yourself because you over given out there. So they're devaluing you and you devalue you, and that's going to create a block in your flow. That's going to create a block in your duality. That's going to create the abundance of lack. So you can see how all of these are just like going to build on each other. All right. And this goes for other people too. So let's say that you're like, I really want to take this course. Okay. And you have a credit card sitting there and they're charging a couple $1,000s for the course, and you're looking at the value versus like, okay, they have something that I don't have. Spending $2,000 on an investment on a course would be a good investment. Because if that is exactly what you want to embody, right? And you have the money, we all know we're going to spend that money on something else, that you actually invest into what you are lacking. So if I have money, I may be abundant in money, but I'm lacking in resources or technology or information. So you can't look at it as like, oh, I'm not going to spend money on something that I could get myself, because you have to understand that time is also a currency. How long would it take you? Are you going to be able to see those blind spots? Are you going to be able to like walk in the shadow of darkness when you're by yourself? I mean, I know as a mentor, I know I undercharge because I know that what I'm giving people, if they could give themselves, they would. But my whole model is helping you turn that on. I don't want to create that supply and demand like you need me forever. Because what I know is that as the economics change on the planet, I'm building lifelong friendships, not clients, because that's going to shift. So it is supply and demand, because if I've done this work that I have this connection with, and you don't want to go 2 years, how much money do you think you're going to spend in 2 years trying to build that connection that I could show you in 3 months, or you could show another client in 3 months? You see how like coaches, we devalue ourselves and then clients devalue us. So it works on both sides. When I have someone reach out to me and say, oh, well, can you do this cheaper? It's like, do you ask the guy at the car lot to give you like 50% off? Right? It's like, you don't do that in 3D. But when it comes to spiritual practices, we have a tendency to devalue each other because we think that this type of thing shouldn't be charged for, or that we're overcharging. But what we're actually charging for is our life force energy, our time, our knowledge, our ability to adapt the information to fit your model. Like there's a lot that goes into this. Like I don't just like sit down here and go, like I'm thinking about all of you guys in my journey, and I'm thinking about what I'm going through, and then that is creating an opportunity. So it's, if you create an opportunity, then it's not so much like overcharging, because I think there are some people that are truly overcharging. But at the same time, that there are people who are buying $10,000 purses so they can appear abundant. So it doesn't matter. What you think is priceless. But your ego is not going to see long-term gain. Like there's short game and there's long game. Okay. The short game is, what can I get right now? The biggest bang for my buck. The long game is, where am I investing that I'm going to have like a long-term legacy? Ego is never looking in the future other than what it can obtain right now. Like it would sell its soul right now to look good in front of others, rather than to look bad and be famous in 5 years. You see what I mean? So it's like ego is very past minded, and higher self is very future present minded. So higher self is looking at the long game. So if I invest in myself now, right, and I might spend money, like I have money, but I don't have time, then you should invest money. If you have time, but no money, you should invest time. So it's like whatever you have abundance in, naturally you invest, and then you counter invest with whoever you're co-creating. This is why I've done like so many barters in my past, because I'm like, well, I don't have that. You say you don't have this. That's perfect, because that closes out the middleman. Now we don't have to pay for the service. We just exchange, which I love. And I know we're going to go there in the future in 5D because we're going to get rid of the middleman, which is separation. But ultimately, for now, we want to look at our supply and demand as our resources, because you can't raise your value and become a diamond if everybody has a diamond and everybody can call you all the time and anybody can get you for 20, 30 bucks when you're giving hours of your heart, spending gas money, then you're devaluing yourself. And if you look at appreciation, devalued, worth less, those are all financial terms. That's going to take you back to the abundance. So this is just something to pay attention to. And I know we've all been guilty for this, because again, it's so easy to give. It's so easy to give. And it is so hard to charge your family. It is so hard to, but then when that exchange goes out, you'll see they treat you like, they treat you like free avocados, right? Okay, so the next one is law of perpetual ego. All right, so this states basically that the environment or matrix that you live in is egoic and will always be egoic. Okay, there will always be separation in the collective consciousness of this matrix. Now, there's a universal consciousness that is unity consciousness that does not have separation. But the thing I've seen a lot of about spiritual people is we always believe that people are like us. Okay, you always think people's heart is like yours. You always think that people care as much as you care, and they do not. Not that we're like trying to have some sort of negative connotation with ego, but just understanding that this entire matrix was designed in the separation of consciousness, which is scarcity. So basically what this is saying, this particular one, is you live in scarcity. Okay, so you want to be smarter, not naive. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with clients over the year where they get on the phone and they are literally blindsided, or they are like dumbfounded, and they manifested something and they're just in shock. And I'm like, this is how this person is every week. How is this still bothering you? Like, hello, you do this all the time. Like, you have to understand that you think that as you're shifting and changing and growing, that the people instantly are going to change around you, and they are not. Because especially if your supply and demand has been out of whack, and you start to put into boundaries and you start to act high value, you're going to get attacked by the ego that says, I should have you whenever I want you, like I've always had you whenever I want you. You should take my breadcrumbs. You should let me twist words around and make you feel like the crazy one. You see, so you live in scarcity. So it's almost like if I was in jail right now, yet I was manifesting my way out of jail, I would still fully accept that I was in jail. So it's almost like you gotta play the game. You gotta know the game so you can change it. It's like, don't hate the player, hate the game. So I was like, you got to change the player to change the game. But walking around like all of a sudden you're in heaven when you haven't materialized your own consciousness is going to be it's going to be a lot of emotional pain for you. So it's like, you need to know where you are. Like you're in the hood. It's like, you drive in the hood, you're in the hood. Nothing, you're not going to necessarily manifest anything, but don't think that because you're moving into an abundance mindset that now the world is in abundance mindset, because the world is in a scarcity mindset, and scarcity broken down is desperation, and desperation is criminal mindset, which means that how can I manipulate you? How can I get you to do what I want you to do? How can I get the biggest bang for my buck? How can I get little for less? How can I do less for more? Like, that's the mindset of scarcity. Okay. And you were raised in it. And so your body is in perpetual scarcity. So this is where you don't want your own body to betray you. This is why acceptance is like the number one part of redemption. You got to fully accept, okay, my body lives in scarcity and lack. My cells are programmed for scarcity and lack. My family doesn't want me to lose weight. My family would use me if I won millions of dollars, with no judgment. You see how it's very important to fully accept where you are without judging it. Because if you just are where you are, at least you need to know the strategy of the game. So as you're moving into abundance, you're very aware that you live in scarcity. Okay. And your job is to not get hooked into collective consciousness and start getting worried about conspiracy theory when you're not going to be living in scarcity. That's what scarcity creates. So if you're going, I'm in my own universe, and then all of a sudden you see on YouTube like something really scary happening in the world, and you associate with that, well, you just said you live in scarcity. So now you're a contradiction. Or you could go like, well, good thing that's not going to happen in my new world. I mean, you just have to be very aware that your body is going to be constantly going to sleep on you, especially if you unplug. Like, let's say you get away from the closeness of the abundance, you get away from the closeness of the emotional abundance that you're creating, and you go out into the material world for too many days, you will fall asleep. You will start getting scared. You will go back to old patterns. You will overeat. You will probably get triggered. That's just a byproduct of being away from your source for too long. Okay, because this is the battery operated world. And the only time you're truly plugged into source is when you are in your body thinking for yourself. If you jump out of your body or think like the sheep mind, you're being battery operated. If you come back in here, ground, I know who I am, be still and know that I'm God, well, now you're plugged back in. But you can't get off your charger for too long, because that world will drain you, scare you, terrify you, and enslave you in just a week at your family's house. So you want to just be mindful of when you are disconnected. So when you're all of a sudden starting to have those fearful thoughts, that is the continuous, like, you can just count on ego being in collective consciousness until the world fully rebuilds the new world. So it's not going to happen tomorrow, and your body is going to betray you. So that's just like, you got to know the game. Okay. Okay. So the next one is the law of invocation. So this one basically is the spell casting, and we've kind of done this class before, but it's great that this is number 7. So this is the idea that you can evoke and create with your words, with your thoughts. Okay. So this is the ability to evoke through what frequency you would like to experience is the frequency that you put out. So if I want to manifest the frequency of prosperity, then I need to speak prosperity. Okay. Because what I speak, I am. And so if I'm going, oh, I'm working on my abundance, but I'm broke and this bill over here and blah, 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 you're actually using that law to create more lack. So you have to be very tight with your words. Like, this is where you go read the 4 agreements. Okay. So you want to just be like, wait, I'm going to speak only as the I am that I truly am inside. All right. So I am going to speak, I am going to think, I am going to behave in that way. I'm going to demonstrate prosperity, I'm going to speak prosperity, and I'm going to think prosperity in order to materialize prosperity. So if you're trying to think in these affirmations that I am abundant and I'm rich and I am wealthy, and you're literally nitpicking everything at the grocery store, like, oh, I can't buy that, you're still behaving in a lack mindset. And so you have 3 choices to integrate prosperity: what you do, how you think, and how you speak. So if I'm speaking prosperity and I'm thinking prosperity, but I'm acting in lack, okay, I'm probably going to start getting some bittersweet manifestations, which means I'm going to get some lack and I'm going to get some prosperity. So to me, it starts to get really awesome when you are literally walking, talking billboard for prosperity, and you're plugged into people who are more prosperous than you, and you're not giving away your prosperous gifts. Okay. All right. So that is that one. And we've already covered that several times in manifestation. So the number 8 is the giving and receiving. So although this is kind of like the other one, the giving and receiving is so important that you, again, are not over giving and under receiving. A lot of people in scarcity have a big trigger with receiving. Okay, because again, receiving usually comes with manipulation. And it's like, I don't want what you have because you're a manipulator, but I'm willing to give to you so that you will stay away from me or stay over there. And this will tank your abundance. So you're going to have to get really back into your moral integrity of self when it comes to giving and receiving. So one thing I learned about the dark feminine energy when I retired my masculine and she started to come in is she only meets people where they are. Now this is going to be very difficult for you, some of you. So where they're willing to come is the only place that you come. Okay. So if they say, "Oh yeah, like come over and have dinner and like enjoy the night," you would say, "Okay, what can I bring? What can I bring that meets you halfway?" You see, so this is also going into give and receive. So you can see everything in this universe is all about flow. So if you're going over to someone's house and they're feeding you and welcoming you, then it would be natural for you to meet them where they are, offer to help with dishes, offer to do something to help them in appreciation. And really all you're doing is you're matching that energy flow, and that creates a flow. So when you actually match someone's energy, you create a flow. When you overgive or undergive, you're creating a block. Now, divine feminine who is wounded is always overpouring and under receiving because that's where she feels safe. But what she doesn't understand is that she is creating huge abundance of lack. Her duality is all messed up. Her flow is broken. Therefore, she is not magnetic. Because what creates the magnet, the polar, the duality of nature is flow. Okay. If something is blocking that flow, those magnetic sources cannot manifest. So even though it feels good to give and not receive, you are cutting your abundance off at the neck. And eventually your body will not be able to continue to overgive because it becomes abusive to self. So overgiving, overpouring, over, and then undertaking will create what's called abandonment and rejection of the self. And that will create abundance issues as well. Okay. I think that one's kind of easy because we've all been there. So really balanced. Like one thing I've known about spending time with very wealthy people is that they are very generous, but not over generous. They're not coming from a place of lack. Like, when people are over giving and it's like coming from lack, or they're overtaking because it's coming from lack. Like we go to lunch with really rich people. Everybody fights over who pays for the bill. Like that's just how it is. But then I was like, okay, you get this, we'll get that. Or no, it's my treat because you just helped me work through this. You see, so ladies that are learning how to be led and provided for, this is really hard for us because it's like we see that they're pouring into us financially and physically. But see, it goes back to the avocado. You don't know what you're pouring into them because you don't see the value. You think, well, all I'm doing is spending time with them, making them laugh and, hanging out and telling him appreciation. And he's buying me this, he's buying me that, he's buying me. That is what he can't give himself. Okay. And so a man feels complete when he is successful. A woman feels complete when she is safe to be free. So again, that dynamic of the matrix teaches women that if we're not paying half the bill and we're not doing this, then we're not meeting them halfway. But that's not halfway in gender duality. In the law of gender duality, men obviously want something from a woman that they can't give themselves. They can buy their own food. They can buy their own trips. Okay, that actually makes them feel really empowered to be able to do that. But they don't have your companionship. They don't have that lightness. They don't have that peace. They don't have that fun. They don't have that connection. They don't have the life force energy that divine feminine brings. And so when you can bring that in, they will pay all the money in the world to have that experience with you and see you happy having that experience. And that is very hard to learn as a woman, especially when you've been leading in your masculine forever, like trying to pay the bill all the time. And then what happens is they go, fine, then I'll take everything you have as a feminine and you pay half your way. And now you're the $5 avocado. You know what I mean? So it's like we devalue ourselves because we don't know how amazing we are. You know, guys don't know how amazing they are. So there's women who are just as guilty of doing overtaking from men. So it's like meeting halfway, but I don't mean money. I mean an energy exchange. You know, it's just like, what does your guy absolutely love about you? Okay, what does your girl absolutely love about you? Okay, that is what money can't buy. So if you can pour into that, and maybe, you know what, I'm not going to put my bad mood on him. I'm not going to complain. So like I was talking to my guy, and like I'm really like letting him practice leading and stuff. And so like he's like way more traveled and sophisticated than I am, just be honest. And so I don't know, like we go to these places, I don't even know what half the stuff on the menu says. Okay, so he reads all the languages and knows all the stuff, and he's just very traveled. And so I let him order for me, and I'm trying all these new things. And what I do know is that, let's say he orders something that I don't like. Okay, or I didn't like the restaurant. If I was complaining and saying, "Oh, I don't like that," then he would feel personally responsible for the whole entire restaurant because he made the choice. He booked the plans. He ordered the food. Men take that personal. See, we don't think men take that stuff personally, and they do. So I know that even if I didn't like the frog leg or the escargot, that was weird, but I'm like, like, because I'm giving him the experience that he is giving me. You see? And later, but you know, it wasn't bad. But it was kind of like this new experience. But I knew that he was like looking at me like I'm giving her this experience that she's never had before. And like, so I'm literally like giving my feminine energy, like, yes. And then after I got through what it was like, no, that's actually pretty good, you know. But it's the experience. And I think that a lot of times when men pour in and women complain, they feel personally like nothing I do is right. So they stop giving. And women, if we're over pouring and we're not feeling safe in the relationship and we're not feeling like seen and heard, then we start to get resentful. But see, what women do is they pour more. That's a woman's solution. I know, I'll just give more so he can see me. And so that's where the balance of gender and the duality nature gets messed up again. Now, you are both masculine and feminine. So when you are too much in your masculine and not appreciating your feminine or taking care of your feminine, or you are too in your feminine and you are not taking care of your behavior, then that is going to be cutting off your abundance as well. So if you're not in a relationship, then this is where you're gonna practice on your first soulmate, which is you, soul's mate. So if you can get this right, then we will attract a relationship that is the perfect balance of that flow that you're now learning how to be with yourself. Okay, I'm gonna get moving here. If you guys need to run, go ahead, but I just wanted to give you the whole thing. Okay, so where's number 9? Law of where is it? Where is it? Emotion, act, fear, resentment, giving and receiving. Oh yeah, so we got the giving and receiving, and then the law of love. And there might be one more in there, but I didn't list it. Wait, what's your spend money? Spending to become abundance, you spending lack. Hold on. Oh, this made sense earlier. Now I'm a different person. True prosperity is okay. So this is the law of love, the last one. Okay. So we'll notice that the first one we said was all the universe is abundance. Okay. And the universe is love. So anything that is not true, unconditional love will run out. Love will never run out. And here's how I can prove that. There has never been one time that I ran out of love for my children, ever. Not once. Not even when they're being ornery and naughty. Never. Never could I not produce enough love in my heart to fully be in that loving space. Nor have I ever not had the ability to channel, ever. There's been times where I'm literally having an ego death, dark night of the soul, and as soon as I turn the camera on, sources flowing through me. Never once have I been like, I can't. Never. So that is how I know that the things that are true of this universe, which is love, which is life force energy, regardless of what season, because right now all the trees are dumping their leaves, but the tree is still alive. It's actually preparing for a whole new rebirth. So although certain things look barren at certain seasons, they're still alive. So whatever is truly alive on this planet is actually love. Anything that is trying to be alive or fake, okay, as soon as you cut flowers, they begin to die. Okay, now they'll lose their blooms, but they're not dead. They're growing in a seasonal space. So we have to pay attention to love in seasons as well. Okay, so it's not 24 hours a day, certain aspects of love, because nature has her seasons, but she's always alive, which means she is love. Okay, you are always alive, so you are love. So when you meet people who are very disconnected from source energy, they are not all the way alive. And so their love will feel very conditioned. Okay. So the law of true abundance is be completely alive. You can have your seasons. Okay. But ultimately, when you are fully alive, which means that you have recovered the aspects of your dual nature and you become unified being, you will be 100% alive. But if one aspect of you, the dark or the light, is in trauma or in hiding or repressed, you will only be half alive, which means that you will feel cut off from love, abundance, prosperity, God, support, help, assistance, and it's only coming from the degree of aliveness within you is the aliveness that you can receive. So what I would recommend as a last effort on here is to look and see what you are magnetically bringing towards you. Okay. What type of people, places, and things are magnetized towards you, and how alive are they? This will tell you how alive you are. Okay. So, and again, how you are alive in your family might be different than how alive you are with your friends, because your friends give you life, your family makes you feel half dead. So that's not who you are all the time, because you are a shapeshifter. So you might be different in family, but notice how you feel. Do you feel very alive with money? Do you feel very alive in your body? Or do you feel like, come on? So these are things to pay attention to, because at our 1 o'clock segment in our fellowship, we're going to play this game. So we're actually going to play, working on all these different flows. I'm also going to show you how to go back into the dead past, pull the abundance out of it so that it can be used for now. So in this now moment, you are 100% abundance, regardless of who you've lost, how you've lost, how much debt you have, who broke your heart. We're going to pull all that abundance from the past, and we're going to kind of start as a whole being. And we're going to play the game of I Spy, right? And hot and cold to recalibrate our system to become 100% abundance of prosperity, not 50% abundance of lack. Okay. If you guys are not joining us, right? I think you got it. Like you could, if you just take each one of these and go, I got this, like just play the game. Notice where, fully accept where it's out of alignment. Notice what's lacking. Okay. You are love. You can bring forth whatever, just the way you see things is very differently, but then it's not just seeing it different one time. Now you got to build a game out of seeing it different all the time until your subconscious mind becomes reactive to the difference, which means you start to see abundance when you walk out into the world instead of scarcity. That's how you know. As soon as your solar plexus is reacting, that's how your world will be different. But if you're waiting for the world to react towards you first, before your solar plexus is reacting towards life, it's not integrated all to the root. So first, your solar plexus will tell you through a reactive point what you believe, and then the world will mirror it back to you. Okay. So if you're waiting for the world to affirm back to you that you are abundant because you've been affirming your abundance, go look at the other 10 of these and see where the flow is not in alignment. Okay. Was this helpful, guys? Especially coming in for the new year? Well, thank you for sitting with me. This is longer than I thought, but I think it's important as we go into this next year that we have our blinders on, we're in our lane, and our definition of Christmas, abundance, money, prosperity is our definition. Okay, because again, your body's got the collective definition, and that counterintuits what you're trying to do here. So you've got to accept that your body is actually in a constant state of sabotage until it's reprogrammed. And just no judgment. It's been a byproduct of its environment. Walk by cigarette smoke, it's going to get on you. You live with a smoker, it's going to be in you. Okay. So secondhand smoke is a real thing, and secondhand energy is a real thing. So the energy that you're plugging into or associating with it, let it be better than you so that you can start downloading. That's a cheat code. Spending time with people who are further than you, richer than you, more beautiful than you. It's horrible for your ego, and it is a biohack quantum leap for your soul because of the power of influence. All right. Okay, guys, I love you, and I will see you soon.